Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and others, if there are any others among us tonight. I'm Robert McBride. I work at All Classical FM in Portland, the radio station you all know and love, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Could have been better, but thank you. Ordinarily, sitting here would be Carlos Kalmar, the music director of the Oregon Symphony. Do not be alarmed. Carlos is fine. He will be conducting the concert tonight. Tonight, the orchestra is unveiling next season's music and soloists. And so there is an event happening next door right now where Carlos is talking to an audience about that. So we have Charles Noble. Charles is the assistant principal violist in the Oregon Symphony, and he presides over a blog called Noble Viola. That is one of the best names I've ever heard for anything, so thank you for coming up with that.
And it's true.
And it's true. There are, to the dismay, I'm sure, of violists everywhere, a ridiculous number of viola jokes. Are there any that you like?
I like them all, and actually the little-known fact is that most viola jokes are, in fact, perpetrated by violists.
I had no idea.
Yeah. We're very self-deprecating.
Do you know why most viola jokes are so short?
So violinists can understand them.
Exactly. Now that one, I'm sure, originated in the viola section. Speaking of the viola section, in the Oregon Symphony, that's right here. So Mr. Noble will be sitting there, and his stand partner is the principal violist in the orchestra, Joël Belgique. So what does a principal do, and what does an assistant principal do?
Well, the principal leads, and the assistant principal follows and is prepared to lead as necessary. No, there's some duties that the principal has exclusively. Like you'll notice that most of the time our bows are going back and forth in the same direction. At least in the section, they're all going the same way unless they're not supposed to. And the way that happens is the principal writes in symbols that tell us whether we should be on a down bow or an up bow. And he follows the concertmaster's markings. And then if there's anything that needs to be worked out in rehearsals, he takes care of that. And so I try to catch, one of the things that I do is try to catch things that are happening in the other string sections and go, did you notice the cellos are doing that backwards from us? I don't know, should we change or not? And then Joelle and Nancy will get in a big heated argument over it, and I'll have to step in and, prevent blood from being shed, and then, it's all worked out. That's one of the things that I do. And then, if something should happen and Joelle is indisposed, either he has time off, or one series I played principal when his wife had a baby, and so he had to not be here, obviously, and so I stepped in and played that concert. And that basically I need to be ready to step in. I'm the understudy, sort of, although I'm actually on stage at the same time and playing most of the same music except for the solos, which he plays.
Now, the layout of the symphony orchestra on stage is more or less pretty much standardized, but not completely. In some orchestras, the cellos will be here and the violas will be there. That's the difference you're most likely to see. Some conductors like to put the second violins over here. Carlos is a violinist, and he doesn't like that because he says they don't like it. They like to be next to each other so they can really hear what they're doing. Do you have a preference?
I like being on the outside, only that we get noticed a little bit more. But I noticed that after we sat on the inside for years, in fact, perhaps for a really long time, for as long as James DePriest was here, we sat on the inside. And then I noticed when we moved to the outside, there were some familiar faces that moved to the other side of the orchestra. I think they were cello fans, and they got kind of miffed that suddenly the cellos weren't as visible as they used to be, and maybe they got seats upstairs or something. But
it's interesting, when you sit in different places, the different sound you get. Like, if you sit up there, you can really notice, you can hear if the first and second violins, when they're not doing the same thing, playing off each other, you really notice it from up there. If you sit down here, the violas just sound glorious. The sound
we sound glorious everywhere, though.
It's a noble instrument, after all.
Exactly, yes.
By the way, these Saturday night pre-concert chats are videotaped. Actually, it's a live video stream, which explains that camera right there, to our website, allclassical.org. So wherever you might be listening around the world and watching, welcome. It's the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall in Portland, Oregon, where we get to enjoy the Oregon Symphony. Now, tonight's concert starts with music by a man who I know by name and reputation only. I've never heard any of his music. And I like it that way because I want to be surprised tonight. Have you played anything by Mr. Addis before?
I have not, but Elaine Calder was a big fan of his, having seen the opera a few years ago from which we're playing a short suite. And so that kind of, she's got pretty good taste in music, and so I thought, I'll check out some of what he's written. And he's written, for a composer that's so young, he's got a pretty large body of work already. He's written his second opera already, The Tempest, and he's got a whole slew of chamber works and works for voice and all sorts of things. And he's a pretty remarkable voice, I would have to say. When I listen to new music, I sort of divide composers into two categories. There's the egghead composers, sort of like Milton Babbitt or Elliott Carter, that are ferociously intelligent, but when you listen to their music, you're kind of like, okay, I don't feel like maybe I'm smart enough to be listening to this. I don't get it. It sounds kind of ugly, whatever. And then there are the other composers that are also ferociously intelligent, but write music that is very connectable and accessible to audiences. And I think Mr. Addis is one of those people where his music definitely conveys a lot of emotion and excitement, and you really do understand what he's getting at. And the whole sound world of this particular opera is really interesting because it's sort of a lot centered around dance. You've got these foxtrot rhythms, and the finale has this absolutely ferocious tango that just kind of sweeps you away. And the second movement is a waltz, although it's the strangest waltz you've ever heard. It's definitely not Viennese, and it's just brilliantly orchestrated and very listenable. And the orchestra's really enjoying it because it's written really well for us.
How long ago did you see the music? When you're learning a new piece for a concert, how far in advance do you get that?
We usually get it 3 or 4 weeks before. And then when you actually crack it open and start looking at it, depends on what else you've got going on. But as far as actually playing it and here on stage in rehearsal, that was Tuesday morning.
Because you're just looking at your part. You don't know what else is going on in the orchestra until Tuesday morning you get here and hear it all. I would think that would be really fun.
It is fun, and a lot of it, we can, I definitely tend to download or stream music that I'm unfamiliar with and follow my part with it and kind of go, okay, that's with the violins or this is with the piccolo or whatever, just to kind of get a leg up. But as helpful as that is, it all goes out the window when you step into rehearsal for the first time. It can be kind of overwhelming, especially in a piece that's as busy and virtuosic as this one is.
Music from the opera Powder Her Face, written by the Englishman Thomas Addis at the age of 24, originally for a little pit band of 15 players, and then when he made this suite, he scored it for full orchestra, including a whole bunch of percussion. And there's an amusing typo in your program notes. It lists all the instruments used in each piece, and one of the percussion instruments allegedly used in Powder Her Face is the ashboard. And I ran into Neil DuPont earlier tonight, principal percussionist, and I asked him about that. He said, it's the washboard. And you can see there's actually one back there. So the lesson